So welcome everybody once again for our weekly session. Our goal here in Proflex Macro WhatsApp group is to keep the conversation going on various things on mind of people. We did have a great discussion last couple of weeks where we talked about the Fed impact, AI trade, many other things. And the good thing is that we are actually forming a pretty decent community here where like there are a lot of people who have ideas. And if you see, we almost concluded similar things last time, where we talked about AI trade last week, and we have seen that market has actually taken the same message which we analyzed after the earnings. And even though the market is kind of topping out, we are seeing that the AI stocks are doing better now. So overall, we want to continue this. Goal here is to keep this community having intelligent discussions, being able to discuss things which are on top of your mind. Today, the topic we have picked up is the crypto opportunities. The reason being, quite a few questions came in on this. And personally, I have been involved in crypto for like almost 9 years now. And we have done a lot of activities, including raising venture funds in the blockchain investments, crypto investments, hedge fund strategies. Many of you are already member of our Crypto Pulse newsletter, and the returns, as you know, have been really tremendous. Like if you are missing out on crypto investments, I'm sure you are watching in terms of how good the market has been doing. So whether you believe in it or not, that is another question we can always discuss today on why you should care about crypto as an opportunity. But the main thing we wanted to focus today is on how are you thinking about it, and a lot of people wanted to discuss how to come in at this stage. For example, is it too high? Is it too late? So all questions are welcome, and I would like you to. So just to remind you again, just to keep it organized, we have the chat open where you can put any questions, and you can raise your hand, and you will be unmuted to ask your question also. So both options are there. And for raising your hand, if you are not aware, you have to go click on the React, and there is an option to raise your hand. So I think first thing which I would like to start with is, and as I always say, crypto originally started with Bitcoin, and Bitcoin is a totally different asset class. There's a lot of other crypto which people are interested in, like if you talk about Ethereum, Solana, you may have heard of them. You may not have heard of a lot of other coins, but there are millions and millions of coins now which people invest in. There is a big interest in meme coins in this cycle, where we are seeing originally there used to be a Dogecoin. Now you must have heard about all kind of, even Trump launched his own coin before inauguration. And I think that is what is happening now. I think we are in you can say in a crypto craze, which from a coin launch perspective. So we will split the discussion in two sectors. One is two sections. One is the Bitcoin, which I think is very simple. If you are new to it, I always tell people to think about Bitcoin as a gold investment. It is just in digital form. What was the theory of gold? The gold theory was always about scarcity and hard metal, which you can carry around. You can own it without worrying about banks. Without you can transfer it to anybody. Mm, it was divisible in any portion. You can make very small portion of gold and you can give it to somebody. So Bitcoin has all those properties. The other benefit is that on top of it, Bitcoin is scarce in the sense that it is algorithmically scarce. Gold, as you all know, the supply of gold has increased exponentially in last 30 years. If you look at the chart of gold production, and some countries like China, they have really increased their gold production by 100x to 300x, which is the declared production, which we don't even know how much more they have. So the scarcity concept, we have seen this with oil, that we used to talk about peak oil, and we found a lot more oil over time. So as the prices increase, as the opportunity increase, technology is always there to find to more gold. And that is where I think people are realizing that in the modern world, Bitcoin has better properties of scarcity because it's algorithmically scarce. It is fixed in quantity. And secondly, it cannot be faked. It is proven on blockchain. I'm assuming all of you have done the basic study. So I don't want to go into those now. Let's keep it again. Just to remind you, you can always ask questions by raising hand or typing in the chat. I would first of all like to invite people on how they are thinking today. And it will be always good to hear from people. I know some of you in this group who have previously mentioned, do you primarily invest in Bitcoin. Some others think that it is it is too difficult to invest in terms of volatility. So let's go ahead. I think Suman, you have a question.
Yeah, so no, anyway, so I never invested in crypto and all, right? So I just heard the explanation, right? And like you was comparing with the gold, and I'm genuinely asking the question, right? And this may help others. You said it's like a gold is scarce, you don't have enough, right? So that's the property. But at the same time, gold is a metal. Another metal cannot be same as gold, right? But Bitcoin, like you said, Trump has a Bitcoin today. Argentina announced they have there also some coin, right? But so like, but when it comes to Bitcoin, someone else can have another coin, right, which can have the same property, but which is not same as gold can have another metal property, right? But that isn't that difference between gold and Bitcoin and the risk comes with it?
So let me explain you why it is different. So first of all, it's a good question, and I think anybody who comes into Bitcoin, this is your first question which people ask. So first of all, let me explain you. Bitcoin has its own blockchain. You cannot create another Bitcoin. You can create another coin, which is can be a copy of the code, and you can always create a maybe just like in early days there was a coin called Litecoin, which was basically a copy of Bitcoin, but it had very small changes, and it was launched very quickly after Bitcoin, even before Ethereum, and it quotes at around $100 right now. Yes, there have been people who have been buying it, and as you said, there are a lot of meme coins, there are a lot of other coins, but there is only one Bitcoin. You cannot just create Bitcoin. There's only one blockchain, which started in 2008, and that blockchain is verified. And that is a benefit of blockchain. You cannot fake it. There will only be one Bitcoin. Now, when you say other coins, why they are different? I always believe like why is today when you look at US dollars, it's a paper. Why, just like you can say I can print any paper, but whatever is issued by US government, what we call it as a real paper, which we believe is $100 bill or a $1 bill or a $10 bill, you know the difference. Now, in dollars, you can still fake it by printing it, and some people will not be able to validate it. In Bitcoin, if even if you create a coin, it's very clear because it's blockchain validated that it's a different coin. So I don't know if I've answered your question in the direct manner, but basic idea here is that Bitcoin is only one. It has been accepted, just like the US dollar bill paper we have accepted as worth money, and uh, monopoly or some other game money is not considered money. Same way, any amount of coins you create will never be Bitcoin. So that is one thing you need to understand. Yes, there are a lot of other crypto being issued, and that is actually a very good question in the context of there are millions of coins today, and they have totally different meaning. Like when Trump launched his coin, it's a meme. And now, why meme coins are in this cycle are big? Because people are saying, I want to show my enthusiasm for a certain brand or something. So it's very similar to, let's say, you buy a 49er t-shirt, and the same t-shirt can be sold by somebody else, and there is a real one and there is a fake one, but you pay more for buying authentic. So it's very similar. So right now, as a asset class, Bitcoin, which is the original Bitcoin, is the asset class which has been identified as gold. And in money world, just like we discussed that US dollar bill versus a paper, and there is nothing in the US dollar bill which is different other than the trust. So Bitcoin has the trust of people, and it is impossible to fake. So think like that, I would say.
No, no. So just to yeah, I'll just do last time, right? So see, I know the crypto properties and all those, right? Point is, uh, eh, still, if someone else creates another chain based on the source code, right? It is, yeah, it's XYZ coin, right? But if you look at theoretically, Bitcoin has no government or any metal backing, right? So another coin has the same property. If I do apple to apple, other than yes, there are a lot of user of Bitcoin. I'm trying to like, and this is generally like, what is the risk, right?
Sure.
Like you're saying, US dollar. US dollar is backed by US government, and Indian rupees is backed by Indian government, right? So there is a differentiation. If I print my own paper, it's not same as US dollar, right? And same
Yeah.
as gold. It's a gold is a gold is a metal. It has a property, right? And if someone else can say I have a silver, but it's not gold. But Bitcoin, I can say Bitcoin one, which can have exact same property other than the number of users, right?
Yes. So I completely agree with you. So there, to be frank, technically, I cannot give you any explanation which will tell you that Bitcoin cannot be created. And as I said, there are enough Bitcoins already. Like you, even in early days, Bitcoin was forked, and there is a Bitcoin Cash. There is a Litecoin. There are millions of coins now. So yes, you're right on that. But it's a matter of money is always about the general belief, and I would let anybody else, if you have any comment, to talk about it. But now let's take a step back and say it doesn't even matter, because now that the Bitcoin is accepted, like even when you talk about BlackRock, which is a, like, managing the biggest asset under management, they are promoting it. Fidelity has been promoting it. Now and now we are talking about Bitcoin being accepted as a reserve currency by state governments. We did talk in our in our newsletter recently that how many states in US are proposing it as a currency. So I would not go any more detail. Like technically, yes, there is no difference, but it's about acceptance. Money is all about acceptance. In similar way, I can ask you a question: Why gold? Why was gold considered the money in old days and not copper and not silver? It's a matter of what everybody agrees that becomes money, that becomes most expensive, because everybody is looking for it. So today, Bitcoin is in a state, and this is where the risk was in early days when people said that, should you buy Bitcoin at $100, $200? When I started, I had the same question as you. And it's a matter of, as more people accept it, it's a network effect also. So anybody has a comment, we can means to add value to that. Means again, as I said, there is no technical explanation I can give you today that other blockchains are worse or better, and we can always debate that. But it's a more of a matter of what is accepted already in the Bitcoin world. And I think we have another hand here from Dhaval. Go ahead.
Yeah, thanks. All good points, Raman. Just from Suman's point, one point I had additional, which is if someone replicates, I understand technically you agree that someone can make a 21 million limit Bitcoin too, right? Technically, someone can write the code and make it, right? Now, if people start adopting that, right? Because let's say there's 1 million Bitcoin, it goes to 1 million price, right? Let's say we all get appreciation, 1 million price, we all are happy, right? Now comes Bitcoin 2. In the scenario I'm just saying, 21 million coins, Bitcoin 2, exactly everything same. If people start adopting that, right? And because there are people who have not bought Bitcoin, right? There'll be people, even after, if it goes to million, there'll be people who have not bought it, right? They consider it rat poison, whatever. If they start now buying Bitcoin 2, because it's a low value, right? It probably won't be a million, right? It'll probably be in a few hundred pennies, whatever it is. If they start buying it and adopting it, um, can that become its own?
Yes.
Then it can become, right?
Yeah. So let me explain. I think we'll means again, in the interest of everybody else who has other questions, let me just conclude by saying that there is nothing technically stopping, and that's the fun of blockchain or crypto. And even if you are following the space, A16Z in fact created a full, not only a bot to go and, a platform where you can launch any amount of coins. They even created the full system where it will market itself, it will do, and that's why we have millions of coins today. So there is nothing stopping you from creating as many coins as you want. I would just ask you to think about why would you buy something else? Something which is already proven and accepted worldwide, something which has value. That is always, you can call it a network effect, you can call it as a first mover advantage or whatever. The thing is, you cannot fake it, you cannot make adoption happen. It has to happen organically. And we are beyond that point. So let me now move on to the next topic. We are beyond that point from what perspective? Right now, we have a Bitcoin as a treasury asset across any asset class. Whether you take pension funds, whether you take corporate treasuries, whether you take governments owning it, whether you like any place you go today. And this is one thing if I would like you to follow. And we share a lot of such details in various places, like including our CryptoPulse newsletter. We have been talking very actively tracking all the adoption metrics. So I would jump on to the next level. Like, let's change the topic to so that we are able to cover everybody's question. I would let you, whoever is questioning why Bitcoin is unique, I would let you do your own research. But as a thought experiment, I would let you go and define a plan. How would you make a new coin, which is exactly same as Bitcoin? How would you make it happen today? You will automatically realize that you cannot change it, but it's already done. Because there is only one Bitcoin right now, which is worth $100,000, let's say, and that is being adopted across asset classes, across across funds like pension funds or a treasury asset and so on. And the ship has sailed for another coin to take its place. Now moving on, actually it ties in very well with other crypto. Any other blockchain platform which they are trying to promote, exactly the reason because there is already a Bitcoin which is acceptable. This is exactly the reason I don't strongly believe in other crypto coins, because that is only capturing a fad. Like whether Trump launches a coin because meme coins are favorite, right now going very nicely. The original meme coin was Dogecoin, and Elon Musk took it and he even created a Department of Government Efficiency using Doge. And now, if you believe, one reasoning for you to invest in Dogecoin as a meme coin can be that next 4 years, every day you are listening about Doge as a very popular agency which Trump has created under his administration. Somebody can say, now I want to invest in Dogecoin because it will become popular. More people will buy it just because of that. But if you are launching a coin, you're competing with thousands and millions of them. And one Bitcoin is there is only one, which was the first one, which had a so-called fair distribution. So I would just move on now to say that there is only one Bitcoin, let's assume. And now we have already reached a stage where we have gone through multiple bull markets, where here we are at $100,000 per Bitcoin. Today, let me tell you a few more things I was tracking. Is we talked about how these assets were under trouble. Like last 4 years, we saw MicroStrategy. Everybody has heard about it. They have joined now Nasdaq 100. Like if you're buying an index fund, today part of it is MicroStrategy, which is purely a Bitcoin treasury company. Today, when you see more and more companies, like at least 100 plus companies are buying Bitcoin as their treasury asset. We have almost every pension fund who has declared some allocation. BlackRock is presenting to their institutional investor that you should allocate minimum 3 to 4%. And they have presented recently to the high net worth individuals that you should allocate 10 to 12% into Bitcoin. So these are the kind of recommendations which are being given today. Now, why this is happening is because it's acceptability, because people are realizing the properties of Bitcoin as a store of value. So let's just take it from here that you have to compare it with gold, which was supposedly a store of value. It was much more difficult, as you must be hearing the news about how now Trump is expected to put excise duty or duties or tariffs on any imports. And all these big banks, they are in a hurry to bring all the gold from London to New York because they're worried that even gold will come under that tariff. And because of that, gold prices in New York and London have mismatched right now because there is more demand of New York gold versus London gold. And this forced this whole thing further because now there's a futures, which are New York futures versus London futures. There's a price mismatch. And because of the arbitrage, more and more banks are forced to bring the gold from London to New York. If you read the news, you can Google it. What we understand is that in last 2 months, London vault is almost emptied and everything is moving to New York. Now, this is the complication of old style assets. Now, Bitcoin does not have those problems. The Bitcoin is literally transferred. You don't have to go through this whole tough, secure operations to move from one place to another. So there are a lot of benefits which people are observing. And as I always say that once we got email, once we got phone calls, we have stopped writing letters. I don't know anybody who writes letters in modern world to communicate with each other. So the same thing is going to happen over time when people realize that when there is a digital gold which has the same properties as gold and it is better, and that is what is happening in terms of adoption. And it's not for you and me to question or this call. We don't have to worry about why Bitcoin. Let's worry about whether you have Bitcoin and how to invest in Bitcoin and what are the opportunities today if you are interested. So let's take the question to the next level now. If somebody has any specific question, assuming you're interested in Bitcoin, assuming you understand, and we can bring in other level of questions now. You can, again, just to remind you, you can raise your hands in the React button and we can bring you in and unmute you, or you can type your questions. Yes, sir.
Yeah, Raman. So then in that case, as we hold Bitcoins, what is the biggest risks you see in holding Bitcoins in terms of timing, trading risk, whatever risks you may consider also in your perspectives?
So I think that's a good question. So risks are very similar to any other asset class, which is probably Bitcoin has been very volatile. So if you are also following about Bitcoin, it has a 4-year bull and bear market cycle. Like every 3 years it goes up and 1 year it goes down. And it also has a 4-year halving cycle where basically the supply of the new Bitcoin being created reduces. So there is a little bit of correlation of this 4-year cycle between that. The risk is, yes, it is a volatile asset. Now, having said that, I think it's not even a valid point against Bitcoin anymore because the level of volatility we have seen in stock market these days is much worse than Bitcoin. The level of moves up and down we see, like Nvidia on a DeepSeek release can fall 20% in a day, or the stock market has seen like GME kind of stocks. We have seen all kind of situations which have been way more volatile than what Bitcoin is. And another thing which I say is that gold in old days used to be very volatile. Like people don't know it because there was no internet in those days in 1970s and 80s. Now, so how do you think about it is, yes, the risk is if you say today I really got excited about Bitcoin, I want to buy 10 Bitcoin, I put $1 million into Bitcoin today, and it crashes by 25%. Yes, it's possible. So like any other, from a pricing perspective, it is like any other risk asset that it can go down in price. Having said that, what are the other risks? The other risks being that we have, like, it used to be there, let's say before Trump won, who is very vocal about the supporting it. There was some concerns because Bitcoin was not seen as like an asset class which they wanted to promote. So most of the governments, and even today in many part outside US, or like EU, is not very favorable towards Bitcoin. India is not very favorable toward Bitcoin. So you have very lot of difficulties in buying it, or even making it like integrate. Like for example, I'm sure you're following recently, a lot of people came out that because they were buying Bitcoin, they were like their bank accounts were closed and so on. All those things were happening previously, and these things are improving now. So the biggest risk earlier was regulatory risk of governments trying to reduce, and also Bitcoin went through the test. If you see, Bitcoin is very old, like since 2008 now. uh, they tried everything to stop it and they could not. So that is also, it has gone through that test. So that risk is no longer there, and we have a very favorable pro-crypto government right now in US, and we are seeing everything melting away in terms of resistance towards Bitcoin. So that risk is gone. Volatility risk will remain, but that is, let's assume you understand the volatility risks, because if you're an investor, you have seen volatility across any asset class. Other risks I would say is, people talk about quantum risk or any kind of, but that I don't think that's a big issue because it's a blockchain based. It's just, if you really believe in quantum computing breaking and encryption, then we have bigger things to worry about, not Bitcoin, because the first thing would be that all your means internet is not secure, and there are a lot of other issues which will pop up. And but yes, that is considered one of the risks of. So how you use Bitcoin is very important. So if you are new to Bitcoin, I think first of all, you should not own your own Bitcoin. There are not a lot of ETFs now. There are a lot of trusted exchanges like Coinbase. I would still not recommend something like Coinbase, but more like BlackRock ETF or Fidelity ETFs are probably better way to own Bitcoin, because if you're not confident. So the biggest risk in Bitcoin when you're doing self custody, when you're owning yourself, is where you lose. Like it's like somebody came into your house and stole your gold brick or gold jewelry. It's very similar risk if you're owning yourself. So that risk is there in terms of getting hacked, getting losing your Bitcoin. So, but I think that problem is solved now with ETFs available and so on, for people not to self custody that. So those are the risks I can identify as the critical things to worry about. Yes, let me mute here. Go ahead, Suman.
Hey, can you hear? No, so I know I'm going back to the original question, but I think it's related to your risk part. Why, let's say, I don't know what is the distribution of Bitcoin all over the world, but I think I will assume US has a lot, US, like people residing in US, right? But let's say tomorrow European Union says we need to have a digital currency and we'll create not Bitcoin one, but XYZ coin, right? And say this is the currency we'll use for exchanging within the Europe, right? Will that not have impact on overall valuation?
No, I think you can do the thought experiment, to be frank, yourself, and define who can lead it. There is definitely anybody has the freedom to launch their own digital currency and
I'm saying you
define.
can do that, right? If you look at
Yes,
euro, definitely fell apart now, but euro currency, one of the intention they had initially, right? And for sure, USD, US government pushes it a lot. Bitcoin, unless US says, hey, everyone must follow Bitcoin, European Union can easily say, I will have my own currency. For sure, India and China alone can't do everything, but European Union as a whole can definitely do it. I'm saying, just saying that should be
sure.
also as a possible
So
risk, right?
I would say, what value would you add by doing that? Why would then it will be very similar to euro? That is like nobody will accept it. What was the benefit of gold? Gold was accepted by everybody. That's why it had value. If you create something local, it will not have the same value as Bitcoin because Bitcoin can be accepted by any place. So again, I think I don't want to go and into this topic. To be frank, sorry for that, but I think we are repeating the same thing. But basically, we don't have to worry about a copycat or anything. That ship has sailed. It is an accepted part where everybody, like Japan has ETF, Australia has ETF, Europe has Bitcoin ETF now. All the people are already investing into ETFs, which are Bitcoin ETFs. They're not creating anything else. And even if they do, it's almost impossible to create a network effect. So I would just say and wrap it up with that thought, and we can always take it offline later. But I think we have to accept it that Bitcoin is already in the mix. So by the way, I'm not able to unmute now. I don't know what's going on here. Just give me a second. So yeah, I think there is some problem in the Zoom right now. I cannot unmute people. Oh no, I think Rajat, you're on. Go
Yeah,
ahead.
yeah. My question is about gold versus Bitcoin. Like anybody who is investing in both, like what would you say are the factors when comparing these two? Like how to decide allocation, or what factors are important when we are comparing gold versus Bitcoin?
No, that's a good point. I would say gold has been heavily manipulated asset class. Even like all the big banks in US have paid fines of billions of dollars. They have accepted in courts how much they have done the price manipulation. So gold was, but having said that, I think gold has still, like, let's not downplay gold because gold has been growing. And if you are part of our Proflex newsletter, we have been bullish on gold since last year very heavily. So gold is a great asset class in current situation because this is what the old world is still believing in. Like India and China, they buy a lot of gold as consumers. China has been accumulating, Russia has been accumulating a lot of gold because as a foreign reserve asset, because it is still the the biggest reserve asset by whether it's currencies, like whether we talk about countries, and it is going through a bull run. But now it's a matter of uh, gold is not going anywhere in next 40, 50, 60 years. Probably it will, means I should not say that because we also never believe that in our lifetime we will see the level of AI we are seeing right now. There are a lot of things which move very fast. But I would say that in terms of allocation, it's your personal choice. And again, just a reminder that we are not in this space able to give you personalized advice. This is more like a educational discussion, but I would say it's very similar, and you should think of it as a Bitcoin being asset class which is still growing in adoption. Gold has been there for thousands of years. So gold is going up because of macro more than adoption cycle. Bitcoin has a higher upside because of, as we already heard on this call, many people don't even believe in it yet. They don't even convinced that Bitcoin is unique or it's equivalent to gold. That itself tells you that, and that is a truth, unfortunately, for any new asset class, that there is a lot of things which Bitcoin has yet to see the adoption. And being very limited, you cannot really mine more Bitcoin than what is algorithmically available, and which is already capped at 21 million. So think of it as a Bitcoin is probably more of a newer asset which has a better future in long run versus gold, which is still a great asset because it is considered inflation hedge. It is considered by countries to be bought as the reserve asset. So it's very difficult to define one versus other. I would say both have their own potential, but Bitcoin, in my view, will do way better over a longer period of time. If you do 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, in those horizons, Bitcoin will do better. Secondly, Bitcoin is better as it is because of the instruments it has. Now with ETFs and all, with ETF and options, and because of the volatility of Bitcoin itself, it presents amazing opportunities, which gold does not have. Like, the kind of opportunities with Bitcoin, like if you are trading, like I think, and I think some of you are already part of our crypto hedge strategies also. Some of you have been part of our crypto hedge funds earlier. And the amount of returns we are able to generate using the volatility of Bitcoin is way better than what any other instrument, stock market or gold can give you. So those are the benefits of crypto, which is and also, as I said, it's a futuristic reserve asset and a store of value versus a gold, which is a traditional one. So that is how I can answer. To be frank, I don't have any direct one-to-one comparison. I don't know if I answered the question.
No, I think, yeah, this is good. Yeah, thanks.
All right. So yeah, there are a few more hands up, but let me take one by one. Go ahead.
So, so I think what I wanted to understand was like obviously the big part of the valuation for Bitcoin is based on the adoption, and I'm just trying to see like what are the metrics you are tracking. Like I mean that people who claim it's going to grow to 10 trillion by this date. Are there like things like mileposts that you're looking
Yes.
for? Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, no, I think that's a very good question. And I would say this is one thing which I've been in this space for the last 9 years. And every cycle, we learn something new in terms of adoption. So when we started, like, personally, I started in the cycle of 2016, 17. It was pretty much a retail driven instrument where no institution ever considered buying Bitcoin. In the cycle of 17, after 2017 peak of $20,000, in the 2018 onwards, we saw a lot more institutional adoption. When I say institutional, it was mostly around formation of trust fund, like Grayscale Trust Fund, which was raising money. It was listed as a GBTC in the stock market. We saw adoption in the sectors like, treasury assets like MicroStrategy started buying it in corporate treasuries. We saw a lot more accumulation by hedge funds and so on. There were a lot of venture funds or crypto funds came up. So that became a little more institutionalized and tools became better. In the cycle of in the current cycle, I think what we have seen is that ETFs now you have much, like, there is a exchange traded fund across the board. At least 10 countries have exchange traded funds, US being the biggest. And we are seeing that now everybody is able to buy through that. Secondly, in this cycle, what happened is, and we learned later, by the way, that even the GBTC, when Grayscale had started, many pension funds and so on, they were already investing. Now we are talking about the second layer, which MicroStrategy kind of players have started. They are using these instruments, like using ETFs. You can do options investing. You can do, so now there is a next. So now it's becoming more mature. It's becoming like traditional stocks and other asset classes where there are derivative instruments available. There are convertible bonds of MicroStrategy. There are preferred shares, which is being used as to raise money. So now we are just becoming like more like a Wall Street like product, where we are saying that now we are seeing the adoption at a totally different scale. Having said that, I was talking to one of the friends here, and who is running the this some of these investment funds in earlier, I think even till 6 months back, I believe Morgan Stanley did not allow it. Merrill Lynch did not allow Bitcoin-based products to be recommended by investment advisors. This was Ameritrade did not allow it. So there are a lot of funds which do not have access to Bitcoin. I think somebody asked in the group also earlier, like Indian government does not allow, even today, Indian funds cannot invest. So there are a lot of countries, there are a lot of institutions who do not still allow, but we are seeing very, every year, in every cycle, we are seeing adoption increasing. So we are tracking that very closely. We believe that we have probably made Bitcoin available as an asset class, to probably 5 to 10% of the world's capital, versus gold and stocks, US stocks and all are available to much higher amount of capital. So probably there's another 10x of adoption left for institutional money. That's my gut feel. Of course, these are not absolute numbers. These are all based on data we are seeing. But that is where the opportunity lies in terms of the asset class being new and misunderstood, that this will probably grow another 10x from here in terms of just the adoption. And I'm not even counting the 10x adoption. I mean the capital which is out there, which can invest. And if they allocate the same percentage where everybody else is invested. So that is gives you another 10x capital coming in. Now, how the price moves because of that, as we have multiple times discussed, $100 billion coming in very fast can raise the market cap by 10x, or 100 billion coming in very slowly can absorb at the same price also. So price is never a correlation of how much more capital got allocated. As we have seen in last few months, people keep asking me another question, which is a derivative question of this is, why when we see every day $500 million worth of Bitcoin being bought by Bitcoin ETFs, why the price is not going up? Because after every big move, there is always a distribution. It's very difficult to say who is selling every day and who is buying, because people make decisions on buying and selling for various reasons. Not so. Let's also make sure everybody understands that just because a certain amount of new money is coming in doesn't mean the price is going up today only. It's also the pace of the money, how it comes in, what is the selling pressure, how many people are ready to sell at a certain price. A lot of things which are totally unknown, and that's what the price determination is. But I'm just answering the question. When I say 10x, I mean 10x more money can consider Bitcoin as an investment. And secondly, the money which is currently exposed to Bitcoin is also slowly increasing the allocation. They are dollar cost averaging it. You see a lot of people who are buying, and every day when I look at the 13F of the institutional funds who have to declare regulatory wise how much money they're investing, it is only increasing. Nobody has reduced Bitcoin allocation. People are only increasing. So all that adoption is in front of us. So I'm unmuting people in the order they raise their hands. So continue with that.
Yeah. So, Raman, the risk that you mentioned, I mean, the storage value of Bitcoin, right? Right, you said. And then you compared the risk of volatility of that, and even stocks can go up, down 40-50% in a day. We have seen that very regularly, right? But would you compare the aspect? What about the comparison that stocks, okay, if you have faith in the stock, you can just hold on to it, right? And there's a discounted cash flow of the company that is getting generated that contributes to the value of the share price, right? Whereas Bitcoin, unless it has a utility value, you cannot ascribe that advantage to the Bitcoin. So, what are your comments on the besides storage value? What about the?
Sure. So I think it's a good question. So I would say that again, that is a belief based on, as we discussed, the factors being the price will go up over time is that you have more capital being allocated, and even the current people. Now the trends can reverse. Yes, people can start selling, and that is, I would say, you should historically compare it with gold. It has been very volatile. I know people before internet days may not know it. In 70s and 80s, gold used to have similar distribution curve where people used to buy it, used to sell it, and it used to go up 30%, 40%, and 20, 30% within a week. Those used to happen. So I don't want to speculate on whether the long term. My belief is, and based on the adoption curve, based on being a superior asset class and being limited in quantity, which nobody can create, the fundamentals are there for a long-term price growth. But what would happen in 20 years from now, nobody knows. I would say at this moment, we are in an upcycle of adoption, and there is a very good opportunity for growth. And I do not want to say that it's a guaranteed growth, because as you know, in any volatile asset class, it can go up and down. I will take a couple of quick question on the chat, which I have missed for some time. So I think one question is, given the challenges Bitcoin faces with decreasing block rewards and potential for reduced transaction volume due to digital gold narrative, what do you see the most viable solution for ensuring long-term network sustainability? So it's a little bit of a technical question. So let me first explain the background. The background of this being is that Bitcoin is feasible because we have this proof of work where there is a crazy amount of hash power, as we call it in technical words. Hash power is the amount of computing power which is mining Bitcoin and processing the transactions. Now, the security of the network is because of that. Like, you cannot just go and it means, again, I would not discuss it here in the call. You can research about proof of work and how it works. So the security of the network is purely based on that nobody can afford to put up so much of computing power to go and create that hash power and blow away the network or start doing 51% attack and so on. So the question here being that what are the challenges? Because as a miner, you are probably getting less rewards as the halving cycle continues, and the transactions, there's another fee, which is every transaction on Bitcoin blockchain, you get paid. when you are mining the block. So my answer to that would be that this is the whole theory of Bitcoin price going up, the halving cycle. The math worked the same way. Means why this was not a question 4 years ago when the block reward was double, and another 4 years ago when the block was another double. As you have seen, the price has gone more than 2x. So even today, after halving, the hash power is only going up. So I think we have seen time and again that Bitcoin has always kept ahead of these challenges, and the fundamentals are proving to be correct for now. So I don't see a challenge that decreasing block reward is a challenge, and reduced transaction volume, I think, was always understood. It was always understood as a that transaction fee was never considered as the prime reason. And as the hash rate comes down, if it becomes cheaper like if let's say people start falling off, if less and less miners start mining, by definition, the difficulty get adjusted to lower level and it will become cheaper to mine, and the Bitcoin price will be enough incentive even at a lower block reward that there will be enough people who will come in to mine. So it's a pretty beautiful system. So I don't think that will ever be an issue, even if we have seen again and again that every time this is brought in, you just have to look at the history of how beautifully the reward system is working in Bitcoin world, that the price automatically keeps going up when when halving becomes unsustainable. Sorry, halving makes the mining unsustainable, because as hash rate starts dropping, there is something called difficulty adjustment. They always keep changing the difficulty to make it the right level. So that's part of the algorithm. That is why it is working for such a long time without any issues. So I'm not worried about that. All right. So any other questions of which is probably more towards the not about why Bitcoin and the fundamental nature of Bitcoin questions. Let's use next 10 minutes quickly on assuming you're all bought into the Bitcoin story. What would you want to ask? And if somebody who wants to ask a question of in the investment products and how to invest into Bitcoin. So one question I see is why MSTR versus ETFs. I think MicroStrategy is very different beast altogether. It's not comparable to ETF because it's a corporate treasury kind of a product, and they are playing with the volatility of Bitcoin to generate their returns, because MicroStrategy currently trades at 2 times the Bitcoin value that it owns. And the reason being that they are providing a leverage. How do they provide leverages? They use their corporate debt to buy Bitcoin, which acts as a additional Bitcoin per stock, which they can buy. And also they are using preferred shares and so on. So think of it as a leveraged product, where they're using debt to provide you more Bitcoin per share as you keep holding the shares. So that's their thesis. So it's more like a leveraged product using a very innovative debt product. And that is what, but on the other hand, ETFs are gold ETF has been very well known for a long time. Most of the people who invest in stock market in gold are through gold ETFs. Similarly, these Bitcoin ETFs have one-to-one correlation to the ETF. The only downside being that you are paying some 0.25% per year or something as a fee to these ETFs. And those fee people don't mind paying today because Bitcoin is generating way higher than, definitely in double-digit annualized returns for a very long time already. And as long as that is true, nobody would bother about ETFs charging them 0.25% per year. But other than that, I would say you should not compare these two products. MicroStrategy is more like you need to do, maybe it needs its own call to discuss MicroStrategy, how they make it happen. So I would not go into the details. There's enough videos available online, and you can just listen to Michael Saylor's presentation in his which are available online on how they generate the Bitcoin yield. So they are for those people who believe in generating more leverage rewards. And it's a very high volatility play. We have been very successfully using MicroStrategy options and so on in our hedged products. In one of our crypto products, we have been generating like 100 to 200% returns annualized using that. So it's a pretty interesting asset for sure. It is, and as I said, with IBIT, whether it's ETFs or a MicroStrategy, the biggest benefit they give you over Bitcoin, that may be another question which I'm extending this, is that you can generate higher yield. You can hedge them. You can do a lot of interesting stuff using the stock market and Wall Street products like options versus directly owning Bitcoin. So if you consider investing in these products, do try to come into learning options, learning other things which can help you learn how to make more money. And also, not only just making more money, you can also hedge yourself much better with options available. And I think most of the people who are part of the Proflex newsletters and all access, you already know we are very, very big users of options tools to hedge your portfolio and to generate higher returns. And that is one thing which we do recommend you to learn if you are using some of these ETFs and MicroStrategy kind of products. Yes, go ahead, Rohit.
Maybe the scope of this call is just Bitcoin, but is the scope also you comparing Bitcoin with Solana or Ethereum or something, or that's another call?
I think we can do that. To be frank, I'm not a big, I used to have a lot of, we have done a lot of crypto trading. So let me tell you my background a little bit. We have done very heavy crypto investments. We have done our own blockchain projects and so on. Today, when I look at the opportunities which are there in Bitcoin world, traditionally, we used to have people who used to invest in these altcoins. So by the way, all of the cryptos are also called altcoins. You would hear this term. People used to do that because they were more volatile, and traders used to love them because they used to trade them at maybe you can come in and out of them and make more money than Bitcoin. And so people used to do a little bit of you can say trading around them. And also in a bull market, they used to do much better. But also, as we started the call by saying that there is hardly any benefit of creating, there's only one Bitcoin, everything else is a copycat. Or Ethereum had a storyline of a smart contracts, which was stolen by Solana. And and there are hundreds of other blockchains. And to be frank, every 4 years, if you look at the bull market, there is a different leader in the smart contract world. When I started, EOS was supposed to be the Ethereum killer. That is right now languishing at nowhere. We had Polygon, which came in 2018 as 2019-20 cycle. Polygon was very big in 2022. It is nowhere now. Solana is right now the hot coin. But as an investor, I would say it's of no value. Means unless you are really deep into the technology, you are using blockchain, you are building technology projects. These are great platforms. I love Solana for their platform. I love Ethereum. I have done myself. I'm in board of many blockchain companies. I have advised a lot of companies. We have built products on blockchain. But as an investor, why would you invest in anything when Bitcoin itself and the Bitcoin derivative products, using options, using MicroStrategy, using many other tools, you can generate higher than Bitcoin rewards. So as an investor, all of these have lost appeal. They have become like a gambling place. So I try to stay away from them. And definitely I don't want to expand the topic of this call to be technical questions around blockchain on those. Means again, I have a lot of knowledge in this week. I'm sure a lot of people can discuss it, but I don't want to get there right now from the context of the call. All right. So any other quick question? I think we are towards the top of the hour. I would let other people who have not participated to just think about don't think of any question being too simple. I think everybody is new to this field. Like even people like me, if I say I have spent 8-9 years, it's still new. We learn everything every day, something new in this space. How this space is evolving, because it's a big paradigm shift the way money is being thought of in the Bitcoin world. And it's not easy to understand. But once you understand, one thing I know is I have not seen a single person who has understood Bitcoin, who has allocated big amount in Bitcoin, and he has said, now I'm selling and I'm going off, I will never buy Bitcoin. I've not met a single person like that. And as you know, I interact with a lot of investors. I have been in all kind of asset classes, whether it is stock, whether it is real estate, whether it is anything. So I would just say that this is itself is a huge thing. Like I've seen people who have become a Tesla bull and become Tesla bear. I've seen people who become, I'm in AI trade, I'm not in AI trade. I've seen all kind of people, but I've never seen somebody who once allocate into Bitcoin ever saying that I don't want to be in Bitcoin. So that itself is a proof of it's a matter of understanding rather than thinking that it is not for you. Go ahead, Ritesh.
Hey, Raman, thanks for doing this, man. A quick question about what's a good entry point, for some, like I've been in and out of it. So if somebody wants to enter Bitcoin at this point, what's a good way to enter let's say going forward?
So I would say I always tell people that Bitcoin, you should think like gold. And especially most of us are here, Indians here. And I would say if you go back to our parents' generation, and there was no internet, nothing, the gold used to be bought for based on occasion, not based on price. Nobody's thought about what price they should buy it. It used to be, okay, there is a particular festival, there is a wedding, there is something, and we are buying gold. Bitcoin is very similar. If you think of it as a long term, you should just think of allocation level, percentage level, and dollar cost average. That's the best way to buy Bitcoin. The second thing is if you are part of our Proflex All Access, we also given means I understand that volatility, and if you're just starting out, you don't want to have a bad start, like where you start and it falls by 20%. So we have already started sharing, even in our crypto was the first newsletter which went out. We gave a hedge strategy of how to protect downside while investing in that. So that is one option you can use to come in. Third thing is that we have a crypto hedge strategy portfolios we are doing for even more people who want to allocate bigger money into crypto. We have already launched it in a beta, and we are going to go, maybe probably we'll do another event to talk about that. And that will be for people who are looking to allocate much bigger sums, and where we can manage that money and we can help you invest those. So those kind of products are all already being launched and they are ready. And we can discuss that offline.
Awesome. All right. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yes, go ahead, Rajat.
I don't know if it is already asked, but I just was curious. Like, what do you think is the next major milestone in Bitcoin adoption?
I think right now it is more of a accumulation cycle. The biggest thing is the strategic reserve. So we have talked about institutions, we have talked about corporate treasuries, we have talked about everything. So maybe some people are not aware. At least 20 states or maybe more have already put a bill in their state assemblies in US to, and I think Utah is the first of one which has actually passed in one of the, I think House has passed for buying Bitcoin as a treasury asset in state government. Same thing has been promised by Trump administration, that they are, and also they have created a crypto team where they are looking at how to buy Bitcoin as a US treasury asset. 80 to 90% of Trump's cabinet, which has been approved, own and self-declared very huge sum of Bitcoin allocation. So it's a very high likelihood that all of them, and Trump his own companies, like there are a couple of companies which Trump runs, Trump Fi and Truth Social, they have all declared buying Bitcoin in last 6 months. So it's a very high likelihood that US will buy Bitcoin. We already have a lot of rumors that Russia and China are already accumulating Bitcoin. We already know that 5 or 6 Switzerland, I think they just put up a bill, and a lot of South American countries have already been buying Bitcoin. So I would say the biggest next step in adoption of Bitcoin is Bitcoin actually literally replacing gold as the reserve asset in government funds. So that probably will be a huge push in terms of creating the FOMO for everybody who is still sleeping on Bitcoin. And as we speak, it is happening. Like I think in our newsletter also recently we have shared the status of many US states who have already put together the bill. And since then, the number of US states who have put up the bill is increasing. So we might see US state level governments being the first one to approve as a treasury asset for Bitcoin.
Thanks.
Istaval, you have a question?
Yes. So in terms of your, again, this is a knowledge question, utility value of Bitcoin, right? So right now you are mainly banking on the storage value of Bitcoin. Are you also, what are your thoughts on utility value? Are you okay if there's
It
zero?
has no utility value. It is so Bitcoin is the biggest utility being some people, there is a very smart way some people have put it. It's also called store of energy because it takes a lot of energy to mine and you can transfer it. But I don't want to go there. That is for people who are justifying some way or other. But let me tell you that store of value is one of the biggest utility, which is not easy to achieve with any other thing. And don't ever underestimate the value of store of value. I mean that. Let me put it this way. So I think overall, just to conclude, I think we are at the top of the hour. Please do invite people to the WhatsApp group if we are having great discussions now. This is we will make it a weekly event This was a great discussion, and thank you for asking all the questions. So feel free to invite people. I think our goal is to grow this community into creating a topic-wise discussion every week and learn together on some of these topics. And please feel free to continue this discussion in the WhatsApp group if you want to talk about some of these topics. So thanks once again. I would like to conclude the call here, and let us talk again next week.